So welcome everybody. I am really excited to introduce you to Jo Jackson, who is the founder of Pivotal Moments, and she is going to be talking you through her story and experience of going from corporate career girl to coach, and she's going to be sharing all of her learnings that she's had along the way. What you can see on the screen at the moment is just a reminder of where you can connect with myself, Jo Wheatley. I am co-founder of In Good Company and also the Coaching Crowd. So you can connect with us on Instagram, in our Facebook group, our book, our podcast, our YouTube channel, lots of different places, and as well as our business lounge for those of you that are coaches wanting to develop your coaching businesses. So let me take this slide down so that it's over to Jo. Now, Jo, you trained as a coach with us. She's a fantastically talented coach, and we look forward to being in the audience with you today, Jo.
Amazing, Jo, thank you so much, and welcome everybody. It's an absolute delight and honour to be here today. One thing I would love is if you can put some cameras on, that would be amazing, because it's so much nicer to talk to faces than it is to talk to little black boxes on the screen. So hello to some lovely faces, and I hope you're keeping nice and cool in this heat wave. So yeah, as Jo mentioned, I am Jo Jackson. I am founder of Pivotal Moments. I trained with Jo and Zoe, started in 2020, wasn't it? I was one of the first cohort where you moved to the online training program, and then I qualified and became an executive coach, accredited with the EMCC at senior practitioner level at the end of last year. So I absolutely love what I do. And one of the things that happens a lot is that people say to me, yeah, but how did you do it? How did you make that move from corporate, from being in a commercial world, and actually start up a coaching business? So that's going to be the context of the conversation today, to hopefully help those of you who are in a similar place or who are considering it, or maybe want those of you who started a business but want some hints and tips to help you to progress that. So my story may well be familiar to a number of you. I suppose what the slight nuance might be is that I've come from a commercial background, and I'll explore that with you in a bit more detail. A lot of people who come into coaching come more from an HR sort of people leadership background, but what I'm here to tell you today is that you can come into it from any background. Anything's possible, so go for it. So before we get into the nitty gritty of it, what I want to just do is say a quick hello from me. So I suppose I want to share with you a little bit about my story, because my story was very much my pivotal moment, and the conversations that I've had with Zoe, who was my coach, and then Jo and Zoe through the training programs, and then Jo as my supervisor, have all helped me to get to this place. And I think it's useful to hear some of the background of people's stories as we discuss it. So I'm Jo Jackson, JJ to many, Auntie Jojo to a very precious little 2-year-old poppet, and I'm absolutely a recovering perfectionist. I am the girl who is very proud of her friends and family. You can see my friends and family on the screen there. I'm partial to a delicate Provence rosé. You can see that beautiful bottle of wine that was in the sea on my last hot summer holiday. Big sun worshipper, although the current 40-degree heat is slightly pushing my comfort zone. Yeah, my happy place is absolutely on that sunny beach, surrounded by the most precious people in my life. I've got terrible taste in novels, absolutely appalling. My dad calls them my penny dreadfuls, but I care really deeply. My passion is people. I'm definitely an empathetic, compassionate kind of person, and I really truly believe that each of us can achieve whatever it is that we set our minds to. And that very much is my premise in terms of my coaching, the way I coach people who come to me in the world of pivotal moments. So I've been a corporate career girl. I've climbed the greasy pole, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. And whilst I've learned loads from these incredible experiences, and I've met some amazing people along the way, I also realized that I hit a bit of a roadblock. I lost my way, I lost my mojo, I felt stuck, I felt lost. I felt as though it wasn't me. I didn't really understand who I was anymore. And it's through the power of coaching that I've been able to reset, find my pivotal moment, and move forwards with what's evolved in the world of pivotal moments. I very much had that perfect life on paper, and I use my speech marks very purposefully when I say that. People would have looked at my life and thought that I was really successful, really happy. You know, I had the house, I had the career, I had the husband, and all those sorts of things. but actually inside it all felt like it was falling down around my ears. And that's why that's one of the reasons why I took such a massive change and completely upended everything from a professional and a personal point of view. And I suppose what I'm trying to say here when I say that is that it's taken 2 years, but I really feel like I'm now on the way out of that. And when I look back to the girl who 2 years ago was going through a divorce, was in the middle of a pandemic, had decided to leave her job in the corporate world, but didn't really know what she was going to do with it. When I think about that girl now and the girl that's standing her in front of you today, they're two very, very different people. And so what I want to do is share with you some of those learnings that I've taken along the way, some of the practical elements of setting up a business, but also some of the mindset pieces that I think are super important that have definitely helped me, albeit I don't have all the answers just yet. So firstly, before we get started, I'd love to know roughly where you guys are at. So can you jump in the chat and tell me, you know, where are you at in your journey? Are you already a coach and actively running your own business? Are you considering maybe training to be a coach? Are you looking at exploring how to get out of the corporate world? What is it that's going through your mind currently and why you've joined this session today? So, okay, cool. So then you're in training, yeah. Margin, exploring to get out of corporate. Okay, so some of the stuff that I'm talking about here. Sally, you're in, yeah, a year in. Cool. Okay, business coach. Oh, look, all these coming through. This is so exciting. Nearly completed your diploma, Harriet. Amazing. Ian, ex-corporate and loving it. Awesome. Loving that. Okay, Hayley, yeah, still in the corporate world. All right. Perfect. So some of you are in training or looking into that pivot. Some of you have done the pivot and you're sort of starting to explore what's next. So, okay. Julie, 10 years on from your own pivotal moment. All right. I'd love to know what happens in the next 8 years. So that's great. All right. Brilliant. So thank you so much. I suppose what's also really important for me to understand is a little bit about what you're hoping to get out of the next 35, 40 minutes. What is it that you're hoping to get out of today's conversation? So jump into the chat. What is it that you're hoping we're going to cover in today's conversation? I can then signal if there's anything that's missing. We can come back to it another time. Wisdom and insight, no pressure. Okay, good. So what else, people? Pitfalls, Leslie. Okay, opportunities. Tips of the trade, hints and tips, inspiration. To hear that it's possible, Angela. It is possible, I promise. Okay, interest in my journey. Thanks, Sonali, and hello. Okay. Ooh, Harriet, do you think your corporate experience climbing the greasy poles made you a better coach? Simple answer, yes, absolutely. I think my corporate experience has definitely helped me understand the context within which a lot of my clients operate, which I think has helped me to have that sort of relatability and relevance to a lot of my clients. So understanding those dynamics has definitely helped me. What I will say though is that not all of my clients are from the corporate world. And so actually, realistically, it doesn't matter that I've got that experience, but it definitely does help in those situations where it's relevant. Okay, awesome. Love it. So I really hope these next few minutes are going to be useful for you guys. So let's have a little quick look at my journey so far to where I got to in terms of my pivotal moment, just to give you the context of my career. So this is what my career looked like as I built it up over time. As I mentioned, very focused in on the commercial world. So I went to uni at Warwick, did an international business degree, did my graduate job at Kraft Foods in customer facing sales. So this is business to business sales. Then I moved to Johnson & Johnson, working on brands like Aveeno, like Listerine, like Nicorette, and so on, selling into the likes of Boots or Tesco, things like that. Then I moved in-house into Boots and became the head of own brand healthcare in Boots. So thinking about the brand and how it stands and how to commercialize that brand prospect. And then most recently, my corporate role, I was the customer director at Mars. So Mars Food, looking after brands like Dolmio, Caesar Change, Ben's Original, those sorts of things. Every single part of my experience to date had been very much focused in that customer facing environment. So I led teams and I had strong people leadership roles, but it very much was a commercial diagnostic, a real commercial focus. And then when I think about it, the pivotal moments that I've experienced over my time have been really quite differentiated. Oh, Emma, I can see you're drawing over the slides. I'm just gonna clear that annotation. I don't know if you're meaning to do that, if you're catching it in the pocket.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
That's okay, don't worry. I can see all these little lines going, don't worry at all. So all of my pivotal moments that have come through my career have happened at often quite low ebb, to be totally honest. So for example, facing redundancy, or moving into a new role where all of a sudden I was responsible for 20 plus people and not really knowing how to step up from an existing level into a peer group type relationship into a more senior role. And then when I left Mars, I was actually having the coaching with Zoe from England Company, so Joe's other half, and exploring what it was that was important to me. And at each of these different phases in my career, I have had the benefit and the experience of having a coach. And I can't honestly tell you how unbelievably life-changing and game-changing that has been for me, to help me to work out exactly what's been important to me. And then I took the plunge, so 2021, took the plunge, and it's very nearly a year since I no longer worked in the corporate environment. And here I am, still standing. So for those who want to know if it's possible, I promise you it absolutely is. So how have I gone about it? What are some of the things that I think are super, super important for you guys, as if I was sort of passing on the baton to people who are considering moving into their own business? And what I would say is that a lot of these first things definitely are practicalities that I think it's really useful for you to consider, no matter what business you're considering opening up, whether it's coaching or otherwise. But these are definitely the things that I've taken away from some great advice that I had from some mentors and things over the last few years. So the first thing I would say, so 5 key practicalities that I've captured here today. The first thing would be definitely save up. So what do I mean by this? When you are leaving the corporate world, or an employed role, it's quite daunting. You're reliant on your salary. That you've got your mortgage and your bills and all those sorts of things to pay at the end of the month. And so one thing that was really, really useful for me to consider was, how could I make sure that I could take stock of my personal finances, my personal financial situation? I live on my own. I mentioned I've been through a divorce, so I really had to make sure that I could keep that roof above my head. I didn't have anyone else that I could rely on. So for me, it was super, super important that I knew that I had a really good runway where if I didn't earn a single penny, I could still keep the lights on and keep the roof above my head. So what I'd really encourage you to think about is, how can you take stock? Make sure that you know exactly what you need to cover in terms of those bills. And what I did was saved up 12 months worth of those bills. So I knew in my savings account, I had 12 months worth of living expenses. Don't get me wrong, like the basic living expenses, holidays and nights out were off the cards, but I had 12 months of living expenses to keep, as I say, the roof over my head and the lights on at home. What that did was it completely cleared my mind. So I wasn't really panicking about, I'm not getting clients in, or I'm not getting the right revenue in, or those sorts of things. What it did was it helped me to consider, okay, it's fine. I'm in charge of this situation, and I know that I'm going to be okay. So it takes away some of that inevitable stress of leaving something that has that real consistency, a monthly paycheck, takes away that stress of not having that level of consistency anymore. At the end of the day, you've got so much going on when you're starting your business. You're learning so much, there's so much to think about. Actually, what you don't need to do is have more noise in your head that's distracting you from growing your business. Yeah, Sally, you agree. Obviously, that's something that you did as well. Absolutely, yes. Having savings totally makes that leap feel less daunting. You've got that cushion, that you've got a little bit of time just to make sure that you've got time to focus on your business. The next thing that I really, really advocate is to do the maths. So what do I mean by that? Build a business plan. And some people say to me, a business plan, that sounds really, really scary. I don't even know where to start on that. All I would say is really think about a few different elements. Firstly, make it really realistic. So consider, how many days a week are you realistically wanting to work? How many clients a day do you realistically think you might be able to get? And what is a realistic amount that you might charge those clients? So for example, what I worked my basic business plan on was, I assumed I'd have 4 weeks off over the summer. So we know during the summer holidays, people generally seem to sort of, get distracted, that don't necessarily focus in on their personal development and so on. And also, I'm a sun worshipper, I want some holiday time. So 4 weeks off during the summer, 2 weeks off at Christmas, 2 weeks off at Easter. So effectively what I said to myself was, I'll be working on average 44 weeks of the year. So straight away, I cut down a real chunk of that potential income and earning power. What I then thought about, okay, was, so if I'm wanting, to work effectively full time, not all of my time will be client facing time. So realistically, how much of my time will be fee earning or chargeable time? And what I came to as the conclusion was that I'd probably be working on average 3 days a week, because you've then also got to do things like your invoicing, your admin, you've got to do your marketing plans, you've got to do all the other stuff that you've got to think about. So it's not just the fee earning time that you want to take into account, it's also the extra time of actually running the business, not just doing the business, if that makes sense. So realistically, how many hours a day are you going to be able to work? How many days a week are you going to work? How many weeks of the year are you going to work? Once you've got those 3 or 4 numbers written down on a piece of paper, you can multiply them up and you can work out actually what is the realistic turnover or revenue or income that I'm expecting to get to. What I then did was I looked at it sort of top down as well. So I looked at it bottom up thinking that's how I can build my business. But then I also thought, okay, how much do I need to earn to make sure that I'm still living a lifestyle that's, that's in line with what I want? Having come from the corporate world, there are loads of little extra bonuses. There's, your pensions, your company cars, or your extra holidays, or your private healthcare, whatever it might be. All those extras soon add up. So one thing that's also really important is to have that lens on, what do I want to be earning? What's important to me? And do those 2 numbers that you've got to actually tally? Do they make sense? So that's what I would really suggest. Think about how are you realistically going to make this work? And honestly, back of a fag packet is plenty for this sort of exercise. It doesn't have to be super, super detailed. You just needing to get to a place where you understand what it is you're shooting for. Thirdly, get qualified. I have noticed significantly that when I'm working with businesses, they want to know what my qualifications are. So as a coach, we are an unregulated industry, but having my qualification, having my EMCC accreditation absolutely stands me as different from other people in the industry. So for me, getting my qualification was really important to me. My Be Perfect driver was very much driving me to do that. I wanted to have the names, the letters after my name to make sure that I had that credibility. But also I have noticed that it's helping me to get some more of those corporate clients or some more of those business clients, because I have to prove my my qualification and my accreditation. So yeah, make sure that you have the opportunity to do that. And obviously In Good Company is the place to do that, because they're amazing. But yeah, so through Joe and Zoe, I've absolutely loved all of my training all the way through to level 7 with those guys. So really encourage you to get qualified, because it's super, super important in adding to your credibility. Do your research is another element in terms of the practicalities of it. Do you want to be a limited company? Do you want to be a sole trader? What are the pros and cons of each? When I first started in this world, I was like, I have no idea what this stuff means. Go on gov.uk and I promise you it is really easy, the stuff that they're telling you on there. So have a little nosy at that. It really does help for you to work out the specifics. And what I'd also encourage you to do is think about the research you need to do. So insurance, absolutely getting your public liability and your indemnity insurance. Get an accountant, get someone who knows about tax, work out, how you make sure you definitely pay your NI, how do you make sure that you're getting your tax bracket right and all those sorts of things. Hayley, I'm a limited company, so I chose to be a limited company for Pivotal Moments. The reason for that, there's a few different things. One, it was more tax efficient for me, but obviously work that out for yourself. I'm not a finance person, so there was something about the tax that was helpful for me. And then secondly, with being a limited company, it means that should it all go wrong, I am protected by Pivotal Moments Limited, and Joe Jackson doesn't get kind of sued or anything like that. So it's 2 very distinct identities, but the main one was it was a financially more efficient model for me to use. Also, when you're working with companies, working as a limited company, I think is quite helpful. It's a little bit like having a qualification or an accreditation, because you're working in that business to business space. So yeah, hopefully that helps, Hayley. So yeah, there's a few of those fundamentals, get your basics covered, your NI, your tax, your accountancy stuff, your insurance. Make sure you don't get caught out on those things. And when you're thinking about your total top line revenue, when you're doing your maths, make sure you also consider what your potential costs are going to be. So actually the numbers that you're looking at are truly your bottom line numbers. Can you live off that? does that give you the life balance and the lifestyle that you want? And then the final thing I would really encourage you to think about doing, and this was honestly a game-changing bit of advice from a previous mentor of mine. He calls it the three-legged stool. It's the equivalent of not putting all your eggs in one basket. So I don't know how many other analogies I can probably, or metaphors I can think of to talk this one through. But basically what this refers to is the idea that you can't necessarily guarantee on one income stream. So from personal experience, getting a really sustainable income stream of one-to-one executive coaching clients isn't an overnight fix. So if you think about leaving the corporate world or leaving your career or your sort of employed career, what's the stepping stones to help you to get there? You're not going to suddenly turn over the amount of money you need to overnight. So for example, my sort of version of the three-legged stool is I do my one-to-one executive coaching clients, so directly with me. I've actually got a two-legged stool, so I don't know what that's called, but so I also facilitate sales and negotiation training as an associate, so as a consultant, effectively on behalf of another organisation. I also get approached to do random things like come and facilitate our board meeting, or can you come and talk to the team about this? So those more ad hoc things kind of crop up as and when. But basically what I'm saying to you is don't bank on one revenue stream or one income stream, because the reality of that is you're not going to necessarily deliver the revenue that you want straight away. So it might be that you choose to do some part-time work, for example. It might be that so what I did was I phased down my corporate career. So I moved from full-time down to 3 days, down to a full stop. So almost like phased one down while the other one phased up. But then also thinking about associate work. And I know there's a number of organizations, so Better Up as an example, who take on associate coaches. So you can do coaching for somebody else. So you've got that extra income stream over and above the one that's directly for you. Sonali, would you put group coaching in the same leg as your one-to-one? That's a different leg, Sonali, and I'm just launching my group coaching program going live in September. So thank you for the tee up. I would class the group coaching programs as a separate leg of my three-legged stool, definitely. Thanks, Sonali, for the question. So yeah, so save up, make sure you've got that free headspace to do it, do the maths, make sure it all makes sense on paper, get qualified, get your certificates behind you. That gives you that extra confidence, but also credibility, and it opens some doors for you. Do your research, get your niggly admin done. And if you're not sure about the niggly admin, find someone who is. So my lovely Daddy Jay is my company secretary, and he does all the hardcore admin for me. And then that three-legged stool, think about those multiple potential income streams rather than relying on just one straight out of the blocks. Okay, so there's some practicalities that hopefully are useful for you to consider. I think the next thing I really wanted to think about is what are those potential mindsets that might serve you? What are the things that I wish I'd known, maybe, or maybe the ones that I'm still working on a little bit, that will really help you to consider, are you ready for this, or how can you challenge your mindsets to be ready for this? So the first one is a money mindset. And I've got a bit of a wry smile on my face because I feel like in the business lounge, most of our questions to each other are about charging and value and all those sorts of things. Sally is smiling at me as well. I think the number of times we're like, oh, it doesn't feel right. So I think the big thing about this is, and I have not nailed this at all, but we are a lot of us, not a sweeping generalization, a lot of us have some sort of limiting belief around money and value. So I really encourage you to think about what is your money mindset. So mine, for example, and one that I'm really trying to break, is hours in equals revenue out. What I'm trying to move towards is the concept of the value that I can offer. So the outcome in terms of the value that I can offer. If you said to somebody, I did an Instagram live earlier on with one of my previous coaching clients, and she said to me, coaching is life-changing. Now, for coaching to be life-changing, how do you put a quantifiable number on that? How do you say it's then worth X number of pounds? And that for me is a real blocker in my head. I can't quite get through that blocker of hours in equals revenue out. And I know a lot of us are, particularly as we're starting our journey in the world of coaching and setting up our own business, a lot of us are thinking maybe we don't deserve to earn at a certain level because we've only got so and so number of hours, or maybe because we're newly qualified, or maybe because we're not yet qualified. There are some of those kind of limiting beliefs that we're carrying around money and what we deserve. So I really believe that limiting belief will therefore be a cap on our potential earnings, our potential success of, from an income point of view. So it's definitely something that I am working on, and I really encourage all of you to consider what your money mindset is, and then work with a coach to help you to unpick that. As I say, I don't have all the answers on that one, but I really believe that is definitely something that will help you to pivot a little bit when you're thinking about embarking on a change. The next mindset is very much that building your business as a glide path. So it absolutely won't happen overnight. And there will be days and there will be weeks where it feels a little bit, tumbleweedy, where you haven't got any discovery calls in, or you can't see a line of sight to, getting new clients on board and things like that. It'll feel at times like you're slightly out of control, and you'll sort of think to yourself, oh, what have I done? Oh no, not sure about this. Or you'll feel like you're putting loads and loads and loads of effort into your social media or your website design or your blog posts. That's another one that I'm doing loads of. But and you'll be thinking, this isn't working, it's not working, and some of that sort of self-sabotaging internal inner critic type voices can help take over, particularly if you have a be perfect or a hurry up driver. So if you're thinking, and I have both of those things, so you can just imagine what goes on in my head sometimes, but I'm trying to do the best I can, trying to achieve, trying to get to that sort of successful level that I've set for myself, and I have this sense of wanting to do everything now. Impatience is definitely something that's within me, but what that does is sometimes it can kind of upset the apple cart a little bit. It can make you think you're not being good enough, you're not going fast enough, potentially undermining that sense of success. So I try to consider that building your business is a glide path that will increase over time. And actually it might be a little bit rocky and a little bit bumpy at times, but zoom out, see the bigger picture and see that there is progress being made. And I would just encourage you to consider that those drivers are drivers, they come up in those stress situations. So notice them, accept them, coach yourself through it, speak to some like-minded friends, family, fellow coaches who will help you with that as well. They are things that will help you and serve to propel you moving forwards. They're not beliefs that are going to put pressure on you. So trust the path. There is a glide path and it will be okay, but it's not always going to happen overnight. Sally, I'm glad you feel the same as me. Yeah, we all have these little wobbly moments, don't we? And that's, it's to be expected, I think. The other mindset that I think is so important, and it's one that I'm definitely starting to get to grips with now more recently, is that you are an asset of your business. What do I mean by that? So I mean that people are buying into your experience, your capability, the learning you've done, and the CPD that you're continuing to do. They are therefore not necessarily just buying into the version of you that they see in front of them, for the hour and a half of that coaching experience. But at the same time, what you also need to do is keep learning, keep developing, keep investing in yourself to make sure that you're constantly growing your repertoire, constantly expanding your self-understanding. I think there's a real mindset shift here, which is things like CPD, meeting it with other coaches, joining, sort of expanding your knowledge on certain things. They are all positive investments in you and your business. They're not a cost. And there's definitely a mindset shift there, which is really interesting for you to consider. At the end of the day, those elements of CPD and continuous investment in you as an asset will help you to grow your business over the longer term. And that can be a little bit of a weird one to get your head around as you're first starting out. So, just as when you're in your current job or in your corporate role, they will have invested in your training, or they might have sent you away on a training program or something like that. Try to consider the same for you as an asset of your business, rather than seeing it as a cost of you as an individual. The other thing I would say is that, you being an asset of your business, try and protect yourself. So make sure you're keeping your energy where you want it to be. Give yourself the opportunity to recharge. So, for example, I had a coaching conversation a couple of weeks ago with a client, and I noticed that firstly, there were some real triggers in there because some of the things she was saying to me were very reminiscent of some personal stuff that I'd gone through. But also because it was a very emotional and emotive conversation, I could feel my energy levels afterwards really, really dip. And actually, I need to remind myself that going for a walk after that, or having a lie down with a book and just resting for a bit, that's okay, because I'm recharging myself back up again to give my best version for my next client. And I think sometimes if you've got this sort of mentality of I've always got to be on my laptop, I've always got to be doing, which is kind of classic when you're working for somebody else, that isn't necessarily serving you to be the best version of yourself for your clients. So considering yourself as an asset of your business, not, you know, a slave to your business, is also super important, I think. Margin, how long before those downtimes start becoming concerns that you need to pivot your approach? Is that with regards to the glide path? If you want to come off mute.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, like, you know, how long before there, I guess, signs that, you know, you might need to rethink your strategy or what you're doing versus that panic kind of coming in. Yeah.
So what I've noticed so I suppose this is where the importance of kind of analysing what's working well is really important. So the first thing I would say is things take time. So what I've noticed is people kind of, and I use this word in a positive way, they sort of stalk you a little bit. They'll look at your LinkedIn, they'll look at you on Instagram, they might read your blog, they might join your newsletter, and they're sort of around and about. But actually, until they need you, you're not going to be able to convert that person into either a discovery call or indeed a coaching conversation. So the first thing I would say is try not to go sort of, you know, chopping and changing too quickly, because these things take time. That's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is having a really, really clear target in terms of your call to action is important. So for example, knowing that I was going to be launching my group coaching program for September, the biggest thing I've been working on over the last sort of 3 months or so is building up my mailing list. So to do that, I've been hosting masterclass content. I've been focusing in on my blog content, trying to drive that through my social media to get people signed up to my mailing list. So that now I've hopefully got a bit of a warmer audience who are more actively involved and engaged with me, and, you know, might then start considering the group coaching program. But if I'd started to realize that the mailing list numbers weren't ticking up, I would have needed to change the approach. I suppose, to be honest, it's a little bit suck it and see, but what I would say is try not to be too, whatever that word is, you know, changing your mind too often, because you'll be amazed at people will be with you for quite a while before they actually commit. Hopefully that answers the question.
It does. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so you're an asset of your business, but then also I think the biggest thing for me is take the leap. Yeah, there's so many things that we talk about, and we often talk about this stuff in the business lounge as well, is, you know, just do it. JFDI, I won't explain what an acronym means, but hopefully you can work it out. That's definitely one we use in the corporate world quite a lot, and I really encourage you to sort of adopt that kind of mentality in your business as well. So if you've got an idea for a masterclass, host it. Worst thing that's going to happen, you've got 2 or 3 people on it, you learn from it, move on. I think one of the perspectives that we share in the business lounge quite a lot is put in the input, but don't worry too much about the output. At the end of the day, all of this is practice, it's all experience, there's always an opportunity for you to learn from it. So if you want to launch a book group, do it. If you want to change your pricing structure, do it. You are master or mistress of your own destiny in all these things. And that's quite a mindset shift from being in an environment where you are reporting into somebody or where you've got a boss or what have you. They feel scary as hell at first. That first time you do a masterclass, that first time you put out a blog post, which no one reads, by the way, those first few, no one reads them. So just go for your life, you know, what's the worst that can happen? It can be really, really scary and daunting at first, but actually, once you detach yourself from the outcome of it, the scariness goes away. And then your nice mates will be like, oh, I love that thing you did, Jo, and I shared it with my friend and that was amazing. And then you're like, okay, cool, good. I'm making an impact, one person at a time. That's excellent. So yeah, put yourself out there. It won't be perfect. That's okay. When I think about some of the stuff I first put out versus the stuff I'm putting out now, already quite different, and it's only a couple of years in. And I'm sure that the evolution of that will continue at pace. Worst case scenario, as I say, you've learned something from it, which is important. Okay. And then the last sort of mindset, I suppose, that I want to bring out is there will be peaks and there will be troughs. So I'm quite an anxious person. I know that my anxiety gets triggered with this sense of ambiguity. So a little bit, Margin, like you were saying there about what if I don't know if it's the right thing to do? The big thing that I think is important to consider is what are your coping mechanisms for those lower moments? What are your coping mechanisms? So who are your cheerleaders? Who is your support network? Who do you call on? I've got a very good friend, and I don't think she's on the call. We voice note each other all the time being like, oh, not sure about this. or I go up and see some friends, or have a glass of wine with my mum? What are those things that just give you that reset, that rebalance, just to help you, to reassure you in those moments where it's not always going to plan? But also, who are the people that you celebrate with when it is going to plan? Because the stuff that we're doing is amazing, and I think we can really forget about how awesome it is. You know, we're putting ourselves out there, we're having an impact on other people, we are constantly learning and all those sorts of things. You know, it's pretty impressive, awesome stuff. So, you know, who are the people that you celebrate the peaks with, but also who are the cheerleaders when you need them, if there are those troughs as well. So a few mindsets for you to have a little think about. And then last but not least, I'm just going to share with you my aha moments that I think, hopefully, these are the things that, again, I wish someone had told me this, or, you know, might have made some of the transition easier. I think the first one of these is very much passion first and success second. So what do I mean by this? I think if you're working in service of your passion and your purpose, you'll love what you do, and it won't feel like a hardcore job anymore. Sonali's loving that. Thank you, Sonali. It'll mean you want to work really hard. It'll mean that you want to put your all into it. It'll mean that you pick up your laptop on a Sunday morning or a Saturday night and you'll just want to be doing stuff. It'll mean reading around the topic is a pleasure rather than a chore. It'll mean that you're constantly thinking about new and different ways to speak to your target market and that person, your ideal client. It will be absolutely enjoyable. And I truly believe that if you are working in service of your passion, your purpose, the way you come across with your potential clients will also show that. So you'll have really impactful interrelationships with your clients. So what's your why? What is your why? What's your purpose? So my why is that I want to help driven professionals who feel stuck to unlock their self-worth and find fulfillment on their terms. That's my why. It's people who, you know, I used to be one of those people. I see a lot of it amongst my, you know, amongst my network and my circle. And I truly believe in the power of people and what they can do. So work out what your passion is, what your purpose is. How do you want to niche yourself? How do you want to get into a space where you're living in service of your passion? Because once you've got your passion nailed on, success will absolutely follow. It's a different mindset, but it's a really important mindset. The next thing is stay curious and open to possibilities. When I first started Pivotal Moments, I didn't necessarily think I'd be doing a group coaching program in September. I also didn't think that I'd be doing some facilitation for a business where I'm going into their board meetings. The vision and the opportunities are ever changing. Someone once said, there's nothing as sure as change. It's constantly evolving. So try and keep your mind open to that stuff, because it's amazing where these potential conversations are going to go. And I think what I think is really important is, you know, having a really powerful network is absolutely critical, but actually it's having a network because you care about those people and you're interested in those people, rather than thinking about what that network can do for you. It goes back to my previous point, which is, you know, if you're living in service of your passion, if you've then got a powerful network, you know, stuff comes your way. It's amazing how the universe sends things to you based on what you, based on who you are, what you achieve, and the kind of the positivity that you put out there. So yeah, be curious, be open to those possibilities, but take a step. You know, take that step, take one step at a time, break it down, but definitely take the step, similar to that sort of JFDI piece that I mentioned earlier on. It is one step at a time. You won't get to success overnight, but definitely take the first step, because it feels so good when you do it. And then you've learned something, and then next time it's a little bit easier. Know that everybody gets knockbacks. What we see on Instagram or on LinkedIn is, you know, the polished version of stuff. Know that behind the scenes, it's taken them 10 or 15 goes to get to that. And I think sometimes we can forget that. And that's why things like having a community like the Business Lounge, like the coaching crowd, is so important, because you can share those moments of, oh shit, and you can have those, you know, those supportive conversations and help each other. So everybody gets knockbacks. The question is, how are you going to get back up again from those knockbacks? And if it's a knockback, it means it's not quite right. So it's a learning opportunity. It's not necessarily a real negative. Find your people. My people are people like you. I cannot tell you how amazing it was when we had the in-person day a few weeks ago, probably a couple of months ago now, Jane, in Bristol, where we did some CPD and I met loads of you lovely folk. It's amazing to me, because I've since had a conversation with some people who work in one of my corporates that I used to work in. And it just jarred. I came off the call and I rang a friend of mine and I said, I just feel like a bit off. Something doesn't quite sit that comfortably with me. So when you find your people, it is so liberating. I can't tell you, people who get you, people who understand you, people who are supporting you, people who are encouraging you, people who are challenging you, but in a really positive way, cutting through all of the BS, cutting through all of the, the corporate speak and the spiel. Find your people, and I definitely feel as though I found my people. So shout out to you business loungers, because honestly it's an absolute joy to be part of the community with you guys. And then finally, play to your strengths. So biggest thing for me was, well, if I've got my own business, I need to do it all. Actually, firstly, I don't enjoy doing it all. Secondly, I'm not very good at doing it all, because there are some things that I can't do. My strength is not setting up the Sage invoicing system. My other strength is not necessarily scheduling all my Instagram posts, because I find it quite detailed, boring work. So how can I outsource some of that stuff? I can think about the strategy. I can think about approaching the clients. I can think, where I want to be spending my time that gives me the energy. How can I then ask other people to help me and support me? So I definitely would encourage you to play to your strengths. So where's your passion, where's your strengths, and outsource those things that maybe aren't adding that much value to you. So for example, I mentioned earlier on, Daddy J, my hero, is my admin guru. And then I've also got a virtual assistant who organizes a load of other elements from sort of a marketing and social media point of view. So yeah, so definitely play to your strengths, channel your energy in a way that is really powerful and delivers for you. So yeah, so what's next for me? To be honest, I don't know. Who knows what the future holds? But all I know is that I have this mantra of I can and I will. Watch me. It got me through 2020. It got me through my training. My ambition is to have more of an impact on more individuals who feel stuck, to help them to realize their potential and unlock their self-worth, find fulfillment on their terms. And the most exciting thing is that I know it's going to happen. It probably isn't going to happen in the way I first imagined it to. But if I can channel these mindsets, if I can channel this thinking, these aha moments, I believe that is the case. And I believe that you guys can as well. You guys can too if you do this. So that's everything that I wanted to talk to today, to hopefully give you some inspiration. Hopefully it delivers some of those practicalities. Hopefully it inspires some people to make some leaps of faith and those sorts of things. There's a couple of things that just to call out to you here. First, if you want to get in touch, please do connect with me on LinkedIn and Instagram. And indeed use the QR code to join the Pivotal Moments community. That's my mailing list community that I talked to you about earlier on. On there, I share with you blog articles, I talk to you about upcoming events, and it's kind of a way for us to keep in touch directly. So please do go on pivotalmoments.co.uk and get more information, join the community, and join the mailing list as well for any further information. Okay, so have I missed any questions, Jo? I tried to keep on.
Yeah, there was one question which was from Mandy, who asked, what percentage of your business comes from your existing contacts in business, and what percentage of your clients are part of a business or company contract, and what are individuals off the street, as it were?
Off the street. So I would probably say currently, I would say 80% of my clients are coming through from my network. So because of my career background that I was talking to at the beginning, I've got quite a varied network through LinkedIn. So I definitely feel as though LinkedIn is my place, 100%. I'm using Instagram as an opportunity for me to feel like I'm more connected with people. So I do Instagram stories and stuff like that feels maybe a bit more relatable. But yeah, I'd say probably 80% are from my LinkedIn network. And then the other one was how many people are business versus one-to-one? Probably.
Yeah. Well, I think like maybe how many are you coaching in a business through a business contract versus people that come into you for private coaching?
I'd probably say 90% is private coaching. So quite a lot of people come to me because they relate to my story and some of that relatability stuff that we talked about earlier. And so they are part of my network, they've seen my story, and then they believe in wanting to invest something in themselves. So yeah, I think mainly private, one-to-one, individual paying for themselves type coaching.
That was brilliant, Jo. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No worries.
Lots and lots of positive comments here. How inspirational, empowering, energizing, and yeah, useful, clear, practical. Loved it. And I think it's so important to hear from other people, you know, when you're starting out or you're thinking about training to be a coach. As Joe was saying, you know, you can get all this, you know, earn £1 million, but actually it's those small but consistent actions that really make the difference. From mine and Zoe's perspective, you know, we've been in business for 11 years. It has definitely been squiggly. It hasn't been, you know, a straight line, you know, near vertical. But what we have done that's made the difference is the same as Joe, which is about just constantly reviewing and learning and, you know, pivoting where we need to and where we want to, noting where our energy is. And we made a conscious decision at the start of 2020 to really go all in more than we ever had done before. And that was really a pivotal moment for us. And actually Joe and I have a special connection because the name of the business came out of supervision, so I feel connected to it, you know, in a way, because you get to know each other so intimately, obviously, when you know, when you study together or work together or do a course together. So keep making those small consistent actions. And Joe talked about the three-legged stool, that portfolio career, and that certainly was the same for us as well, starting out. You know, our very first piece of work was from an organization, danced around my kitchen to that, was designing e-learning. So it wasn't what we'd set out to do, but it got us off the ground, you know, and it gives you that kind of reinforces those positive beliefs. And then, you know, bit by bit, you might design a leadership development program that has coaching in amongst it, you know, and here we are now running our accredited coaching programs with lots of other exciting things happening. And the main thing is go where your energy is. You know, you've got to enjoy it, as you were saying, Jay, with your presentation.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, you know, if you're going to leave your employed life and do something set up on your own in some way, you've got to love it, you know, because it starts to become quite all encompassing. But that's great, because if you love it, then you know, you're living in service of your passion as well. So.
And I think there was a question in the comments about the business lounge. Do you need to be a qualified coach? You don't. So, you know, some people don't want to make the leap from corporate until they really are convinced that they can make a successful business and can earn a good income from it, and that it's not going to be lonely, that they can enjoy it. So yeah, we do have people in there that haven't yet trained because they want to do the research, and the business lounge is part of the research. We have people in there who well, they get, if you do the level 7 with us, you get 12 months complimentary access to the lounge. You do the level 5, you get 6 months complimentary access. We also have people in there that trained with other organizations, but actually want to be part of our community. And then we have other people that are like, it's too much when I'm doing my training. I was in there, it was complimentary, but I want to stay in. And now I've got my qualification, I feel that I can learn how to do the business side. So it's very much depends on how you learn and how you pace what you do. So, Joe, what about your group coaching program that you're launching? Do you want to say a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting on September the 13th, I'm starting my Get Unstuck group coaching program, which is for people who are feeling as though they've lost their mojo, they're feeling a bit stuck, they're not quite sure what's next. It's going to be limited to 8 people, so a really nice, safe, supportive environment for everyone to sort of share in that learning and hold each other accountable as well. It's going to be Tuesday evenings, 6:30 till 8:30, and it's going to be an 8-week program, and during which you'll have 15 hours of group coaching and 1 hour of one-to-one coaching with me directly to help you to get unstuck, work out what your next path is, build your self-awareness, all those sorts of things. So check out my website, pivotalmoments.co.uk, for more details. There's a specific section on Get Unstuck, so you can find out more, or drop me a DM and I'll happily jump on a call and explain a bit more to you about it.
And I think the last thing I would say is that, you know, one of the things I love, and I think you love as well, Joe, is that the coaching community industry, like, is generally very, very supportive, or certainly the part of it that we're in and enjoy being in. So, you know, I love to see people that have trained with us go on and be hugely successful at whatever that looks like for them. And we really try and support people to do that. And this whole coaching summit is an opportunity for us to support people that are in the business lounge, to showcase, you know, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and an opportunity for everybody that attends to get to know them better and be inspired by it. So thanks again, Joe, for being our final speaker.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, thanks for joining me, everybody. Really appreciate it.
And if you are interested, any of you, in joining Zoe and I for our masterclass tomorrow, it's a midday GMT and it's about working with emotions. And we'd love to see as many of you there as possible. Thank you very much, everyone.